Hi there. Can you see me? I hope you could see me. It's Ms. T.I., and I'm here for Ghost Stories with Ms. T.I. now. Before we get started, I know that I do a lot of things with children and little children, and I tell stories with little children, and there's Root Bear and all that good stuff. But this is not for children tonight. I do not like to scare children. Well, teenagers. I like to scare teenagers, but not little children. So if you're watching with your little children, good night. I'll see you another time, and I will definitely come up with another song and post another song one of these days. But for right now, this is just for the grown-ups. So I want to tell you a little bit. A lot of you know me and know my ghost stories. I want to tell you these are not made up ghost stories. These are things that have happened to me. Now, I know people talk about being sensitive, and I don't even have any idea what the heck that means, except, well, I did cry like a baby watching Frozen 2. Oh my gosh, do you believe some of the... Oh, anyway, I'm sensitive like that. But in terms of like ghost sensitive, I don't think of it as sensitive in any way. When I was a little girl, I grew up in a haunted house, and my house was filled with spirits. And so as I was learning about the world and what the world was made up of, part of that was spirits. So I always maintained my ability to be able to see just beyond what is right here, just beyond the table or this glass of wine, cheers, or the other things right in our physical life. I've been able to know when there's something nearby that is unseen or just beyond physical perception, if that makes sense to you. So because of that, throughout my life, I've had many, many experiences and encounters with things that are unseen to many other people. I've got lots of stories about this stuff. I'm going to start tonight, though, with, I think what I'll do is I'll associate them with place. So tonight I'm going to start, maybe if you like it, maybe we could do this again another night, but I'm kind of rambling here. Let me get started here. So I'm going to start with the place I work. I work in a school, and the school was built on the same site as the very first school in the little town was built in like the 1850s, and so it's got the same footprint. The main part of the building was built in the late 30s and 40s, I think maybe even before that. I know the gym was built in like 1939 or something. I may be wrong. I'm not going to say it, Mary Sue. I may be wrong, but I doubt it. But it's right around that time, so that time frame. And it's been added on, and it's not like this big old-fashioned spooky school. It is a vibrant, wonderful place for little children to learn and grow. It is also a place where some children have decided they're going to stay, even after they are not here anymore. Now, the first time I realized this was pretty much the first time I was there. As I said, I'm really aware of things that are just beyond what we can see and taste and touch. So when I first started teaching, I was traveling between 3 schools. I was a circuit riding music teacher, and I would be one day in one school, and it was a 3-day rotation where gym, art, and music would rotate. So when I was in a building, I was the only special teacher there, and there was no music room, so I could have gone to the classrooms, but I opted to teach in the gym because, well, the big open space for dancing and music and movement and all that fun stuff. And it's this warm wooden floor, and it's got a stage, and you know the old gyms with the stage with the heavy velvet curtain. So when I would close the curtain, it would help with the acoustics, and there was padding around, so the acoustics weren't too bad. But I had all that open space, and I'd use the microphone, and I would come in and set myself up in my chair with my back to the stage, and I would have the kids on a rug in front of me. Now, from the very first time I was there when I was setting up, I could hear things behind that closed curtain. and I would hear things moving around. And now there are a lot of things that'll make the sound of things moving around, from rodents to other kinds of things, whatever. But I was very aware of the presence of someone right behind that curtain. I remember one time acknowledging it. I was standing, and the stage height is right about chest height for me, so I was kind of leaning on the stage with my face toward the curtain, acknowledging whoever was back there, because I knew there was somebody back there. And so I just said, well, hello. And I was quiet, and I got this, when I get this aha that a ghost is there, it's like I get this rush, and it's like people talk about the temperature dropping, but it's the temperature in my body that changes, it seems. It's like this cold rush in my body. And I knew I could hear the footsteps coming very close to where I was standing, and I just stood there and waited. And when the footsteps were directly in front of me, I said, hello there. And all of a sudden, you could see the pressure of two hands pushing the curtain out like this, whoosh, and the whole curtain just pushed out toward me. I said, well, there you are. And it startled me. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not afraid of ghosts. Ghosts are as much a part of the natural world to me as, well, skunks. I'm kind of afraid of skunks, but that's another story. But I wasn't afraid, but I was startled. And as I told you, I get this physical rush when a ghost is nearby. So I sort of like stepped back and I said, hi, and I told him who I was, and then kind of moved back. And then all the kids started coming in. There was one time when I was sitting in the chair, and the children were sitting on the rug in front of me. And it was between songs, and I was, getting stuff ready, probably pulling my dulcimer out or something. And all of a sudden we hear very clear footsteps run from one end of the stage to the other. Now there's no lights on the stage, and the curtain is closed, and it's dark back there. But at that time we did have a child who was a runner, and you get these all the time, a little kid who just bails and takes off and disappears. And I get that. I have wanted to do that in many classes. But so I was thinking that maybe it was this child that had just left her class and had run up there to hide. And so, but I wanted to make sure. So I asked my kids, did you hear that? And they were like, yeah, somebody's up there. And I said, okay, I'm going to go check. Now it has two doors, a door on each side of the stage. So I went to the stage right side, and I said, I'm going to go up here and watch the other side to see if somebody comes out the other side, because if it was that child, I'd have to let somebody know. They'd be missing her eventually. And so I went up on the stage, and it was pitch dark. And I said, hello, is anybody up here? And there was this shift of stuff above me, not on the floor, not, there was a lot of stuff stored on the stage, but this was a shifting above me. And so I made it to the top of the stairs. I'm kind of slow on stairs. And I flipped on the light, and I looked first for a living child. And then, since I had heard something above me, I looked up, and there's one of those curtains that hangs down, to block the lights, and the whole curtain is just swaying above me. And so I went to the middle of the stage. I knew very well there was no living child on that stage. I went to the middle and opened up the curtain. I said, did anybody come out the other door? No, nobody came out. I said, okay, I'll be down in a minute. And the children just are sitting there, totally silent. And I came back down, turned off the light, and came back and sat down, and they said, shoot, I just touched my face. Well, I washed my hands, so I'm good. Anyway, I sat back down, and they said, so who's up there? Who was that on the stage? And I said, oh, nobody's there now. It's okay. And just went on with the lesson. One time, this was when my hair was longer, and we were playing this game where all the kids were up dancing, and I had the music on, and I was in my chair, and I was watching everybody, because that's what I do. My eyes are on every child so that children stay safe, they don't go can't call 911. So I'm watching all the kids, and I get that feeling again, in my neck and my shoulders. And I know somebody is right there behind the curtain, right behind me. And I just said, that none of the children heard me because the music's going and they're out dancing like crazy people in the gym. And I just said quietly, I said, I know you're there. Hello today. And there was no sound, no movement. And the next thing I know, I feel this rush on the back of my neck, and my hair lifts up over my head and drops over my eyes. And I just pushed it back. Now, my hair does crazy things quite often, and it has never really done that on its own, but my hair sticks up and all of a sudden it feels like it's in my eyes like this. But that was pretty much. And so I just smoothed it out and ignored it. And seconds later, once again, whoosh, flipped all right up, and it was really fast. And I could feel the fingers even on my head. And so I just turned around and I said, knock it off. And this one little boy that was dancing nearby said, what did I do? And I said, oh, it wasn't you. I wasn't talking to you. And just went on, and it didn't do that again. Another time, this was kind of a big thing. Another time, I would set my stuff on the stage and put all my stuff out there, and then my cart with my CD player and all this kind of stuff, and my instrument on stage and my coat over there. And I just, that was my staging area again at the staging area. And then I would do my work in front of the stage. So I had my cane resting on the stage. And I was collecting all my stuff, and I would put all my stuff to schlep it from school to school in one of those grocery carts, those, they said I looked like a bag lady, but those collapsible grocery carts. So I would put everything in, my dulcimer would go in, and my puppets and all my other stuff, and my cane I had on the edge of the stage. But when I put it on the stage, I had set it on there so that the handle was where I could reach it, and the tip of the cane was just under the closed curtain. And the curtain has about probably a 3-4 inch gap at the bottom, so you can see underneath, but it was dark under there, so I of course didn't see anything. So I just put the cane so it was just, the tip was just under the curtain. And I was packing all my things up and getting ready to go and bundling up, and the last thing I was going to grab was my cane. And I went to grab the cane, and it started sliding underneath the curtain. And I reached for it, and I grabbed a hold of it, and I held onto it, and there was something tugging from behind the curtain, and it felt like, have you ever had a fish on the line, and you can feel it tugging, but then all of a sudden it lets go? That's what happened. It just let go. And so I said, you are not allowed to mess with my cane. Now you talk to ghosts like you would people. Well, I do anyway. And I said, I need my cane. If you put it up there, I can't get it because I can't get up the stairs without my cane. Don't mess with my cane. That's all. And I took the cane. I wasn't too freaked out, nothing, but I left that day. And then 3 days later when I came, I put my stuff up again on there, but this time I didn't put the tip of the cane under the curtain. I had it laid crosswise so that it wouldn't happen, because when you tell a child not to do something, I think this is a child ghost, by the way. When you tell a child not to do something and they want to get your attention, oftentimes they will do it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you're all home with your kids. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So I didn't put the tip under the curtain. I had it just laid across. And I can walk, I don't need my cane for every step. I can walk in short distances without it. And sometimes when I'm feeling really good and I'm not in a lot of pain or something, I will walk to go get something over here or over there without the cane. So I had it on the stage with all my other stuff, and I went to roll my cart around I put it behind a door so that it wasn't, because the next day would be gym and my cart with all my stuff on it had to be stored. So when I came back, I'm putting on my coat and getting all my stuff on, and I can't find my cane. And I'm like, wait, what? And it wasn't part under the curtain this time, but it was not on the stage. Now, I hadn't really noticed it when I was going to take the cart. So, like I say, sometimes I'll walk away from it and sort of lose it. So I first walked right across the hall to the office and looked by the copy machine in there, and I say, hey, has anybody seen my cane? And they're like, no, it's not in here. And I thought, well, I went to the bathroom earlier. I might have left it in the bathroom. So I walked down, holding onto the railing along the wall. But I figured, if I am busy, I could set it down and leave it. And I went. It wasn't in the bathroom. And so I'm down the hall by the bathroom, and I see one of our parapros. And I said, have you seen my cane anywhere? I left it someplace, and I can't find it anyplace. I checked the office. She said, well, did you check the lunchroom? I said, well, I didn't, but I didn't eat lunch in the lunchroom. She says, well, I'll help you find it. And so together we walked back to the gym, because if it was on the stage, I needed somebody to go up and get it. And as we opened the door and entered the gym, she says, there it is, and points up to the bleachers. Now, the bleachers are on the opposite side of the stage, and there are steps that go down to what was once, I think, a dressing room or something, was a locker room that was now like a title room or something. And above it, there was a bar. It's like deadly. Kids sit up there, and there's like this one high bar. It's not safe at all. It freaks me out when kids are up there. I'm like, move away from there. But they're hanging from that bar way up above the stairwell was my cane, just hanging there. And so Carol says, so how did it get up there? And I said, I have no idea how it got up there. Now, I got to tell you, there is no living child, who would mess with my cane, because they know that Ms. T.I. is fragile, not like glass, but like a bomb, and that I need that so I don't tip over. There is no teacher or parapro that would play a prank on me and put my cane where I couldn't reach it and couldn't get to it, because you have to climb up the stairs and up the bleachers. And so I was a little ticked off at this little ghost, who probably thought this was hilarious, having me stay there longer and more time after school searching for my cane. And so when Carol left, after she got my cane for me, I went back to the stage, and I walked up on the stage, and I sat down on one of the chairs up there, and I spoke to that little person, and I said, here's the deal. My cane is not something that you can play with. If you move other things, that's different. If you want to get my attention, you know other ways to get my attention. But if you do that again, I'm going to kick you out. And you know I can. And my cane was never messed with after that. But it wasn't the last thing that happened. Wine break. So, other people have experienced things, especially in the gym there. The custodian, who's now retired, but one of our former custodians, told me that she would work at night. The custodian would start like an hour before the kids left, and then work to clean up the building till like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And she told me that more than once she would clean the gym, turn off the lights, and then be down the hallway. And as she was rolling her work cart back up the hall to go down the other hallway, she could hear basketballs bouncing in the gym. Now, at that time, we didn't have the kind of protective key codes and stuff, and everybody in the world had a key to the school. There were neighbors across the street had a key. Everybody in the world had a key, and people would just come in and use the gym. So she was kind of miffed that she had cleaned the gym and that somebody was now in there playing basketball, and she just wanted to make sure that when she was ready to go that nobody was still in there. And so she goes up and just burst the door open, and it's pitch black in the gym. She said she closed the door, she stored her cart, and she left. Got in her car and left. Fortunately, her work was done that night. There were other people who've experienced things there as well, and I've experienced other things there. One Sunday, now I use the stage because I do performances. I'm the music teacher, and I use the stage for plays and for my music performances. And the stage for years was like a catch-all of everybody's debris. If somebody didn't want something in their room and they didn't know what to do with it, they just put it on the stage. You know, the stage was like that drawer in your kitchen, you know what I'm talking about. So before performances, I would have to go and take care of the stage and get it set and get things ready. And so I would bring my husband, sometimes known as Mr. T.I., but most of you know him as Bunsey, who would always come and help me. He's always been my Sherpa. He's always helped me. I could never do the job that I have done all these years if he wasn't there as my sidekick and my personal assistant. So we were there on a Saturday, I believe, or a Sunday. And while we were there cleaning the stage, we decided that this was when the twins, we've got twin grandkids who are now 7, and when they were like 3 years old, and they were like stir crazy. So I thought, well, we're going to be working on the stage. Let's just bring the twins and their bikes. And they have those little trikes. It didn't mess with the gym floor, don't worry. But they could play and get some large motor play for a little while. I think it was a rainy day or early in the spring like now. And so we packed up the twins and their stuff and we went to the gym. And I'm working on the stage. And I see Loudon standing right by the stairs that go down into the title area, you know, down below where my cane had been hanging. And he's just standing there, and he's talking to somebody. And I thought Maggie had gone down the stairs, and these are concrete stairs. So I was all of a sudden like, you know, wait, what are you doing over there? And he said, talking to the man. And I said, talking to the man? And so I went down right. I said, Bunsey, is somebody else here? And he said, I don't think so. So now I'm thinking there's somebody else working in the school. This is not unusual. So I went over, and there was nobody down there. And then seconds later, he just walks away. And I said, well, where did he go? And he says, he's just gone. And then they're playing and playing. And then they came up on stage because that's where I had the snacks. And the twins, and it wasn't Maggie down there. There was nobody down there. I didn't tell you that. So then the two of them were on the stage getting a snack. And all of a sudden, in unison, they both looked over to the stage left area and were smiling, and they both just waved. And then I watched both of their heads just look up, and they waved again. And then they just went on with their play. And it didn't surprise me because I know that there's a child back there that plays. One time I went back, I was on the stage to, I was getting some stuff from the stage, and I didn't turn on the light. Unfortunately, I went up the one side, and I knew right where what I wanted was. And as I was on the stage, I could see, there was light coming in from the side of the curtains, and there was light coming in from under the curtain. So I could pretty much see where I was and what was around me. And I'm very careful. I've got my cane, and I'm walking very carefully so that I don't fall. My New Year's resolution every year is to stay vertical. And all of a sudden, I hear something across the stage, and I look up, and there is this black shadow about the size of a kid who's maybe 12, maybe 13 years old, standing just this side of my cupboard. Now, my cupboards were those metal cupboards with like a grayish, light-colored gray cupboards. And there was nothing else in front of them, and this figure was just standing there. And so I stopped and I looked up, And it started to raise his hand, and I took one step, and I wasn't looking down, and my foot caught, we had this balance beam with this big bar that stuck out, and I tripped on that bar of the balance beam, looking at this black figure at the far end of the stage, and I fell, and I caught myself with my right hand, and I couldn't get up. And instantly when I fell, I felt it, this entity, come whooshing toward me. Now, this was not some whooshing toward me in a threatening way. This was like an, oh no, oh no. And he was right there. And he was just standing over looking at me. And then all of a sudden just went like, and was gone. And it took me like several minutes to be able to stand up. I was able to grab the balance beam with my left hand and finally get myself up. It turned out I broke the crud out of my wrist and my hand. So my right hand was like in a cast, not a cast, but one of those air cast things, those black things that you crank. And for just the longest time, and for the entire time that my hand was casted or braced or whatever you call it, that ghost was nowhere to be found. No sense of him at all. Nothing. Not a sound, not a sense, not a peep. That gym was completely empty. He bailed. And I felt like that he probably felt it was his fault, that he had distracted me. And we have a relationship. He sees me as a teacher, and I like him, and I think he likes me, and I think it really freaked him out that I got hurt because he was making contact with me. So after a while, after I was all healing and stuff, I kind of let him be and thought, this is you could, whatever, wherever he is, it's okay. And then I just started talking to him and saying, that wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything. That was just something that happened. And I should have been watching where I was going. Yes, I was watching you, but it's not your fault. I don't blame you. And I'm not mad at you. And like 2 days, so it was like the third day then, the next time I came, I could sense that he was back there. We had, when we had like book fair, it would be in the gym, and so I'd have to be in a small part, and there was something going on, or I was showing a movie for something. Maybe it was the Peter and the Wolf or something. And while I was sitting in my chair with the children on the floor, and you pull this big TV in, and one of those ancient TVs that are wider than they are, from front to back, these giant things. And the kids were watching whatever it was. And I just had a paper and pencil. One of the things that I do, that I'm able to do, is do this like automatic drawing. And it's really odd. I don't know how to describe it. I could draw people and things, but this is like a scribble. It's like my hand just shakes scribble draws. And I was just holding a notebook. I think it was my plan book. It was before you had lesson plans online. And I had my pencil because I was working on, while the kids were doing that, I always take notes in my lessons and stuff to make them better all the time, because that's what I like to do. And so I had my pencil and my plan book, and I just turned to the back page, which was a blank page, and my hand just started scribbling, just like crazy. And pretty soon, and I do it without even kind of looking at it, look from time to time, but I let my hand do the drawing. And at the end of it, I had drawn the face of a boy, probably about 13. And then with the same line, with the pencil, so it's not like I finished the drawing and then I start to write. Same line with the pencil, my pencil went out. and it wrote Jonathan, and then stopped. And I looked down at it, and then I looked up at the stage, and I said, "Is that you, Jonathan?" It was. So I know what he looks like, not just as a shadow person. He's still there, and I don't teach in the gym anymore now. I teach in the library. And at some point, I think he found me there because kids will come into the library and I'll be doing something and not looking, and they'll come up to tell me something. And I felt this child come and be right there, right there behind me. And my question is always, where are you supposed to be? Because they're not supposed to be right there. So where are you supposed to be? And there was no answer, so I looked up, and there was no one. And after that, I think that's when he found me there. Because after that, and I think, Jill, you might be watching this. She works in the library with me. There have been some strange things that have happened in the library. Things moved around. You can feel a presence there, not as strong as in the gym, because I think that stage and that gym area is more in keeping with where this boy wants to be. I've spoken to him and tried to get his story, a little bit of his story. And one of the things that I got was that he went to school there, and he left to go to the war and died of influenza, which is kind of pertinent for now. And it was influenza is the word. I just kept hearing influenza, and I could feel having trouble breathing. We're trying to catch breath, and influenza. And I think I asked, why are you here? And he told me that he was waiting for someone who had waited for him. And so I'm wondering if at some point there isn't some ancient lady out there who is going to pass away, and either there will now be 2 students on the stage, or maybe he'll go and be able to find her and be at rest someplace else. But for the time being, we've got a lot of school spirit where I teach, and one is a young boy. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I'm sure there will be more that will happen there, and there were more things that happened at the school, but I think I'll just stick with that for now. I see there are a bunch of you watching. I can kind of see comments. Does anybody, I can see the comments. I'm doing this on my phone. Does anybody have any questions or suggestions for other stories that you would like me to tell about? Anybody? Tell another. Right now, how long have I been doing this? Like half hour? I think I might save an encore for a different night. I don't know if I can do this every night, but Sammy Peter says maybe some of us can send some of our own stories. I could do this every Sunday. I will totally tell Ravine. That's one of mine. Yeah. I could do this every Sunday. I'm trying to think of ways to occupy myself. I'm usually doing 1,000 things, and this has just given me time to think about some of the things that I can do just here in the lamplight and still share with folks. And I want to thank Ralston Bowles. I don't know if you're watching, but Ralston left me a voicemail suggesting that I tell some stories online here. So I think I will do that. One more story. If I tell one more now, I won't have. Well, I'll probably have enough to last through the whole quarantine. Rachel, you want me to tell about the Beltane fairies at Ravine? Is that what you'd like? Yeah, okay. I'm going to tell you that one. So this is not a ghost story per se. But remember, I can see things that are just beyond. Hold on, I need a drink of wine. Everybody, cheers. Happy quarantine. And while we're in this, although we're in this by ourselves, we're all in this together, right? And so we're making stories now, and we can tell stories. And we'll be together again soon for lots of hugs. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait for those hugs. All right, so there's a place that is just west of town here that is used to be a rustic campground called the Ravine Campground. It's in the Manistee National Forest, and it's right by the Pine River. The Pine River there is something magical about this river. Well, it's in the middle of the forest. It's a wild river. There aren't many people who live, well, right in the forest. There aren't many people who live right on it. Some people do, Kristen, and I'll tell your story about the river one of these nights too. But this campground has always been charged, like energetically charged. Now, I'll probably mess this one up, but the first story from this campground that I was told was from Rachel and her friends. I'm not sure who else was there. I think it was Kelly and somebody else. I'm not sure who else. But anyway, these girls were going camping out at Ravine. And remember, it's a rustic campsite. This is not with hookups. This is, there's an outhouse and that's it, and a fire ring. And they went out and set up their camp and got really spooked when they were out there. I believe they heard footsteps around their tent and there was somebody else there, and they thought that they were just afraid. They weren't afraid of it being somebody, ghosty or spirit kind of thing. But what they were concerned about is they were so remote, they had no cell phone coverage. This was flip phone time, and there was no cell phone out there. And they were afraid of humans. I'm way more afraid of humans than ghosts and spirits, I'll tell you that. So they packed everything up and came home. Next thing that I recall is that the Ravine Campground was taken out of use. And so they went in and they removed all the fire rings. They bulldozed up where the road was so you can't drive into it. But there's still a pavilion down by the river that is still there, and like the rustic steps down the bluff to the pavilion. So it's still there, but it's not a camping place. There's no camping there. And there really isn't any place to park per se. The campground is closed, which was a wonderful thing to do to that place. It needed to get those steel rings out of the breast of the earth there. That it's a powerful place, and those were just it was a piercing that was not good for what kind of a place that is. So then another time when the twins were like toddlers, still diapers, Ezra and Lindsay went out with the twins and some other folks, and he was bringing Loudon back up from the pavilion to change his diaper in the car, and he's carrying him up, and as he's carrying him, Loudon points and says, "Scary man," and points up in the tree. And Ezra says, what's scary man? He's scary green man. And Ezra's looking and thinking, that phenomenon where you see faces in the leaves and stuff, but this is like early spring. And Ezra is also very tuned in. He's somebody that also recognizes when things are nearby. And he sensed that there was something nearby. And it kind of freaked him out. And so he asked me if I would go out there to check it out and to see what's going on out there. This happens to me a lot. People get freaked out by stuff, and it's like, who are you going to call a TI to go check out what's going on there? So we were at Zach's place, which is just a couple miles away, and for a campfire and all that. And Ezra was telling me the story of this was just a couple weeks prior, of Loudon and the scary green man. And he said, I want you to go check it out sometime. And I said, well, let's go now. It was still daylight, but it was evening. And he said, really, right now? I said, yeah, everything's cool here. And he said, okay, everybody, if we just go? And everyone was like, yeah, go ahead. So just he and I went. And we pulled in, and I had never been there. This was my first time going to this place. I'd heard, people tell about it, but those of you who know me, I have a hard time in rustic places. My footing isn't all that sure, shall we say. So we went, and I stepped out of the car, and he thought that there was like some ghost action there because of the story with Rachel and her friends, and he had been out there fishing, and every time he was fishing there, it's a great fishing spot. You catch lots of fish, but he has never kept a fish that he has caught at that spot. He's kept fish from other places, but he just is compelled to put them back in this spot. And he's felt something there with him, and he was thinking maybe something happened there, and maybe there was a ghost there or something. And I stepped out of the car, and he had one arm and I had my cane in my other hand, and we took just a few steps, and I could just feel the aliveness of this place. This place was filled with forest spirits. I can't remember. There's an Anishinaabe name for the spirits that dwell in the forest. And they're not human ghosts. They've never been human. They're other. They're part of the natural world. And this place was like teeming with them. Now, when I was a little girl, my grandmother told me that these spirits are fairies. So I imagined fairies. There are fairies here. There are spirits who live here. This is the place that they live. And as I stood there, I got a picture of ancient people, not so ancient, but native people, Anishinaabe people, walking, and there was a path, just walking and stopping to just touch the earth and leave something and then keep walking. And I said, this was never a place for camping. This was never a place for stopping. This was a place that does not belong to humans. This is a place that belongs to these other spirits. This is a magical place. And I'm really glad it's not a campground anymore. And I'm really glad it's on a dead-end road, and that it's property that will never be developed, because there is a village here. There is a community of spirit beings here. And they're all around. And they know we're here. And they know you don't take fish from here. And they honor that. Because you honor this place. And as long as we honor this place, we will be welcome here, and we won't be frightened here. But if we try to take from here, or if we try to disturb this place, they're not going to be very happy. Now, when you think of fairies, you think of, or wood spirits, you think of these benign little beings, but they're also protectors. Human beings have messed with so many sacred places on this earth, and they're beings who are trying to protect the places that are supposed to be sacred, that are supposed to be left natural and alive with physical life and alive with spirit life as well. And I said, we just need to honor them and thank them for protecting this place. And you're safe to come here as long as you walk with gentle feet and leave an offering when you leave. And so we left, and he's been able to go fishing there and gone out there. And then there was an evening where Gopherwood had a house concert out at Paul and Nancy Brown's, and it was with Blake Elliott. And I love Blake Elliott. Hi, Blake Elliott, if you're watching. I hope you make it home safely. If you're not, she's on her way traveling back from canceled gigs. That's a hard thing for all you traveling musicians out there. Sending you lots of love. And anyway, I just went down the rabbit hole. But so Blake played a house concert. It was Beltane, May 1st, and it was a full moon. This is a powerful night of magic. This is a night that when you get in the full moon in a magical place, magical things can happen. So after the show, I just mentioned that it was Beltane and the full moon, and I was going to go out to a place where I knew the fairies dwelled. Was anybody, and not anybody, I wasn't taking anybody, but I asked a few people if they wanted to go. Blake was one, Rick West was one, Ruth Ann French was one. Ruth Ann French is visually impaired, and of course my Sherpa Bunsey was there. And I think that's all. I may be wrong, but I think it was just that group. And we parked on the road, and with Bunce in between Ruth Ann and me, Ruth Ann and I always joke about we're the lame leading the blind. We just went and stood there in silence and just listened and waited. And I think Rick said, "Can you call them in?" And I said, "They're already here. We just have to be patient." And then Bunsey, since we were standing and safe, Bunsey started walking around the periphery, and you could hear the night sounds of the forest. It was May 1st, so it was early, but you could hear the forest is not silent at night. There are lots of sounds. We could hear the river clearly. We could hear, little movement here and there in the forest and other night sounds that the forest naturally makes. And as we stood there, suddenly I noticed that all sound was gone. And so I said quietly, "Do you hear that?" And somebody said, "What? I don't hear anything." And I said, "Exactly. Okay, now look, something's going to happen." So about 30 feet, 35, I don't know distance, 20, 30 feet away, the moonlight was shining down in the woods, and it was a big, full moon. And the trees weren't leafed out yet, so there was lots of light in the forest there. And the moonlight was pouring down on the ground, and you could see clearly, and you could see it on the ground. And off in the distance, maybe 20, 30 feet away, on the ground, I start to see a circle of blue light. Not a circle, but a disc of blue light. And it was on the ground, and it was it started like on a gas stove. You know how the flame will lick up like that, but it wasn't a flame. It clearly had no heat. It was just light, and it was blue, and it was this beautiful, unusual color of blue. It wasn't sky blue. I can't even describe it. It had like indigo, but it was lit. It was lit, and and it was pulsing, and it was pulsing up in places, and I didn't move, and I didn't want to break the spell, but I said, "Do you see that?" And people looked and started saying, "Yes, I see that." And Ruth Ann said, "I can't see anything." And I said to her, "Don't look with your eyes." And she turned her face in the direction, and she inhaled. I can see it. Because when you're dealing in that place that is outside of physical reality, your physical impairments, you don't see with your eyes, you don't hear with your ears, you are moved into that otherness where you can see when you can't see. Your eyes aren't what you see with. And we all watched this for just minutes and minutes, and it grew taller and then went down, and it grew taller and pulsed, and it was still there when I said, "I think it's time for us to go." And without a word, we all just turned and made our way back to the car and left with this amazing gift, with this wonderful, wonderful gift from those keepers of that place, from those protectors and those beings, and may they be there forever. And if you're walking in the woods and you get this funny feeling, just acknowledge that it might be a protector there, and walk gently and acknowledge their presence and thank them. Thank them. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight. This has been lots of fun for me. I hope it's been fun for you. And there will be more stories. I'm looking at the clock. It's 52 minutes, almost a whole hour of me going blah, blah, blah. Who knew? Everybody. I love you all so much. Be safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your... Oh, shoot, I just did it. See you next time for Spooky Miss T.I. I love you guys. Bye.